What's going on, everyone, and welcome to Movie Emporium's movie review of Snake Eyes G.I. Joe Origins. This film, of course, is directed by Robert Schwentke. Now, before we begin, as always, if you like this channel, awesome, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium, hit that notification bell at the top to find out what's coming next. If you like any of these videos, awesome, hit that like button, as well as commenting below any video that you watch, including this one. So Snake Eyes G.I. Joe Origins is the, in essence, origin story of the well-beloved, very popular Snake Eyes character from the G.I. Joe franchise. His MO is, of course, he wears a black helmet, black uniform, has a katana sword, a couple guns, and his big thing is he doesn't speak. So with that said, just to let you know, that might be a point of contention for a lot of people who really like the character. And so his character in this movie is played by Henry Golding, who is an individual that's well beloved for his charisma, I guess you could say. He was in like Crazy Rich Asians and of course Last Christmas. And in essence, this is a revenge story. This is a story about an individual who is searching for his father's murder. He comes across individuals in the G.I. Joe universe, which include Tommy, who's played by Andrew Koji, who may or may not be, of course, Storm Shadow, and he also works for this kind of mob boss who may or may not be working for Cobra and whatnot. And so this is basically like Wolverine Origins, even though that movie was terrible, is everything that builds up to when he eventually becomes, you know, the character of Snake Eyes. So we see kind of how he learns to use a sword, how he is deceptive in the way that he does things, and what makes him kind of do what he does and what makes him tick. With that said, this was a movie that wasn't really high on my radar. I think it's been pushed back several times because of the pandemic. It's a movie that follows a franchise that I want to say that I have watched and kind of enjoyed, but I've never really been like, you know, on board with all the G.I. Joe franchise and whatnot. I was a huge proponent of really hating the movies that came out because I thought they were overblown and overstuffed and just really kind of stupid in their own right. So to have a movie based on this franchise and a character that, though is beloved, doesn't really hold much hope for me, to be fairly honest. So when the first couple trailers came out, I was a little bit more optimistic because I thought they looked like a lot of fun. For the most part, Robert Schwentke, who's the director, is a competent director. He knows his action and whatnot. And to my relief, to my, you know, kind of surprise, this movie actually is not only fun and entertaining, but actually is a very competent action film, which is really surprising. The problem, though, is it's very paint by numbers, but I'll talk about it in a second. But it's a movie that takes the well-beloved franchise, the well-beloved character, and I think pays some respect to the character itself. You really get a sense of this character, of Snake Eyes himself, and I think, you know, having Henry Golding, who's a very charismatic actor, take over the role and kind of run with it is quite entertaining. Yes, he talks in the movie, but you kind of lose track of that idea as you're watching the movie because you're thrilled. You love watching the martial arts in this movie. You love watching the colors of Tokyo and Japan. You know, when he meets the Andrew Koji character, the Tommy character, and you see like the house of his like kind of Yakuza style mob, or not really a mob, but they're kind of a clan, like the Foot Clan in a lot of ways, where they have a lot of history, back history and whatnot. And you see them start to work together. You start to see this world is very traditional in a lot of aspects. It's a movie that, you know, with a character like Henry Golding, is given a lot of fun stuff to do, and it gives us a world that is very samey in a lot of aspects, but it still feels very fluid and very natural and just has a lot of fun with what it's doing. And like I said, there are characters like Baroness and, you know, Scarlet that pop up from the G.I. Joe and Cobra world, and they're basically there to just kind of keep us in check that this is a G.I. Joe movie, even though it's a Snake Eyes origin movie. But, you know, there's other people in this movie. There's the bad guy who is, you know, has history with Tommy, and there's the woman that works with Tommy in his dojo, his, you know, world that he lives in, that is very suspicious of Snake Eyes and so on and so forth. It's very strange that Snake Eyes is just Snake Eyes. He doesn't have a name, but whatever. It's not like the worst thing in the world. And then you have like the three masters, or the masters. You have one who, of course, is played by Uwais, who, if you've ever seen The Raid, he's the main character from The Raid. Very prominent when it comes to martial arts films and stuff like that. And he's in this movie as Hard Master or something like that, if you know what Hard Master is, but whatever. And and I love Iko Uwais. I think he's an amazing talent when it comes to his career and whatnot, but he's not very well utilized in this movie, to be fairly honest. And it was the same thing, I think he was in The Force Awakens, and I think the raid crew, for the most part, has always been underutilized in these movies, but he has some action moments, some sci-fi or some martial arts moments, but it's cut a little haphazardly, so you miss a lot of stuff and you miss a lot of his cool moments. And it's a problem, but it's Iko Uwais, so I expect a little bit more. But there's other people in this movie. There's other characters that kind of form who Snake Eyes is, and so on and so forth. Scarlet, of course, is played by Samara Weaving, which is kind of awesome. And what also really surprised me is the action and martial arts stuff in this movie is really competently done. It's really nicely photographed. It feels like very natural. It's very cool. It feels like they borrowed from a lot of martial arts films, and it feels just very fun and energetic and exciting. It's not perfect because some of it feels a little too stale and whatnot, but it really feels like they really were just having fun with what they were doing, harkening back to the old martial arts films. And like I said, because this is set in Japan, it looks beautiful. You see Mount Fuji in the background, you see Tokyo, you just see all this amazing world that is Japan. So it's a really just kind of fun, energetic film. It has some really competent characters, and I can't wait to see the sequel to this movie, to see what Henry Golding and Andrew Koji do when they start really going at it with one another, because Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes have a past history together where they go at it most of the times in the TV series. But if I have to get into some really negative stuff, this movie is extremely paint by numbers. It is extremely samey when it comes to going from point A to point B to point C to point D. It's not like the terrible thing, but similar to like Wolverine Origins, you have this the start point where something happens to the character and you have them in their mid setting and you have them joining some group, and then you have them to the conclusion where they've kind of become who they will eventually become. And I think that's just a little disappointing. I think it was a little, what I call hackneyed in a lot of aspects, when it feels a little rough around the edges. And it's not saying that's like the worst thing in the world, but for the most part, when you're doing a really paint by numbers, really samey storyline, you just expect a little bit more. And there's parts of this movie where there's this object that is a MacGuffin that really borrows heavily from a very famous scene in the franchise that I won't explain, but overall it's just like, you're a little tropey, you're a little too much. But with that said, other than that, it's a movie I wasn't expecting much out of, and I actually enjoyed it more than I thought. It's definitely the better film in the franchise that is G.I. Joe, and it's going to lead to some very interesting kind of conceptual stuff when it comes to G.I. Joe and Cobra and Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes. It's going to be interesting to see how they all flow together. And overall, I just think the movie has a lot of fun with what it's doing, and is a pretty fun movie, especially if you're a G.I. Joe fan. But with that said, that is going to be my take on Snake Eyes, G.I. Joe Origins. Thank you so much for watching. In the comments below, what do you think about Snake Eyes? Are you a huge fan? Are you looking forward to this movie? Otherwise, let me know in the comments. But if you like what you see on this channel, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next. If you like any of these videos, awesome. Hit that like button. And as always, we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out.